Julian on YouTube. We can find great price deals at asking price using Privy. My question is to you is, do you think we're able to find lots of competent buyers who'd be willing to buy these deals above list price? So hypothetically, they found the deal, they locked it up because it's a good deal, and now they're going to try to sell the property at a price above what's listed on the MLS, if I understand this question correctly. So I must imagine you've gotten this question a bunch of times.
I have.
All right, so let's go with the script, or how do you say this?
Well, there's a really easy way for me to illustrate why the question is you can do it. But there's a lot of real world scenarios where it won't work. So think about this. Let's say we go out, we find a bunch of buyers, and one of the cool things that we can tell in Privy is that, is a buyer willing to buy something from the MLS? So if we look at the house they fixed and flipped and sold last week, we see they bought from the MLS, they sold it for this much money, and they got it at 60% of the ARV, right? And then we talk to those people, and then we're like, hey, you closed that deal last month on Main Street. Looks great, by the way. I'm an investor in the area. I come across properties a lot that, don't meet my buy box, or I just don't have the bandwidth for. Is this kind of what you're looking for? And they'd be like, yeah, you know what? We're going up to about 58% of the ARV now. But if you can find something that's lower than 58% of the ARV in this neighborhood, we want to see it. Right. So now you've got some direction from the buyer and what their buying criteria is. And then you're like, all right, cool. So looks like you also bought this thing from the MLS. You have any issues with MLS deals? Is that okay? Like, no, we'll do MLS deal. We have no problem with that. Awesome. Cool. Well, sometimes we come across properties and they're such great, amazing deals, right? And if I could find a property that was at, say, 50% of the ARV, and I had to get it at slightly at asking price or slightly above, is that something you'd still be interested in? As long as all your other buying criteria made sense. They're gonna be like, yeah, I'd take a look at it, right? So part of what I said there is you're basically, you're prepping them for the scenario down the road when that's gonna happen.
Right.
Now, let's just say, okay, we run a search, we find a property that's in Privy at 40% of the ARV. And you can find those all day as long as you use our reverse RI strategy. And let's say it was at 40% of the ARV. Let's say you could get it for 80 grand and the ARV was 200 grand. All right. And that makes sense at 40%. Well, that should be a deal to this end buyer. Even if I have to pay, 85 for it. Or let's say I got it for 80. I mean, let's say I got it for asking price and I want to put $5,000 on it. And now this property is at 43% of the ARV. Well, why shouldn't the buyer buy it if they just told us they'd go to 58%?
Right.
There's no logical reason except for ego.
Exactly.
Ego is what gets in the way of deals being done. And you can get around a lot of that ego by building relationships, by providing a really good service, right, where you have all the data there, and then vetting them out ahead of time, like making sure they know that those could come. And also, too, spending time with people who don't have a problem with that. Eventually, you're going to figure out who will and won't do that.
Right.
But if a buyer is really motivated by deal flow and they can get a property at 30% of the ARV, but they have to pay $20,000 over what I got it for, and I got it at ask price, well, who gives a crap as long as it's still a good deal?
Right.
It shouldn't matter.
I love that you're bringing all these things up, right? As long as you provide a good service, and the value's there, and the ego component. I think like the big thing we talk about again, with the dispo sales training is ensuring you understand what the reason is behind them buying properties. And if the reason is there, right? I want to make enough money so I can take my family on vacations, whatever they tell you it is, right? Quit my 9 to 5. Okay, so is that still important? Because right now it sounds like that's not as important, right? That should be able to diffuse the ego. The other thing I really enjoy what you did there, right, is you handled all the objections in the initial conversation. Not later, right? It's like, hey, we come across deals, doesn't fit my criteria. Want me to send this to you? Okay, sometimes they're off the MLS. Is that an issue? Okay, sometimes they're on MLS and you'll be paying over MLS. Is that an issue? And they said no to all three things. So now when it comes up, I don't understand. Like Benson, you and I talked. You said as long as it hit your criteria, you're okay.
Right.
What did I miss?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you do the takeaway.
Right. Hey,
and you're like, oh, well, that's fine. I mean, if this deal isn't for you, I've got lots of other people that want it. Are we on the same page here, or should I give it to somebody else?
Right. Fantastic. So look at that. Look at how deep we went on that question. Thank you, Julian.